Hi there, this is the quiz review for the Chapter 7 quiz you'll be taking soon. All right, so the first one says evaluate the expression if a equals 2, b equals 5, and c equals 1/2. So the first one is a plus b. So we're just, when we're evaluating an expression, we're going to replace the variables, the letters that represent numbers, with the numbers that they give us. So instead of a, I'm going to write 2 because a equals 2. And instead of b here, I'm going to replace that with 5. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and perform the operation, 2 plus 5 to get 7. All right, number 2, I have b to the second power. That's an exponent, which means to multiply the base, that's the b, 2 times. So this is really the same thing as b times b. So if I replace b with 5, and I have to replace it for each b, so 5 times 5, then my answer is 25. All right, and this last one here, I have 8ac minus a. I'm going to replace each of the letters with the correct numbers, but I need to remember that when I have a number in front of a letter, that means multiply. It means multiply also when I have 2 letters right next to each other. So even though there's no parentheses or dot here, this all means I'm multiplying. So 8 times a times c. So I'm going to replace the a again with 2. So 8 times 2, and then times c would be 1/2. And then I replace a again with 2. All right, so this time I have multiplication and subtraction. When I have more than one operation, I need to follow the order of operations, which is PEMDAS, right? So I have parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide in order, add, subtract in order, left to right. All right, so multiplication is going to come before subtraction. I can just do it in order. 8 times 2 is 16. And then I still need to multiply that by 1/2 minus 2. All right, so what do I do when I multiply fractions? Well, in order to do that, I need to multiply the top times the top and the bottom times the bottom. But 16 is a whole number, so I need to make it into an improper fraction. I do that by writing it over 1, and now I have a top and bottom. So 16 times 1 is 16, 1 times 2 is 2, and then I still have the minus 2 here. So to finish this up, I'm going ahead and simplifying 16 divided by 2, or remember, this fraction bar here is just another way to write division. So this is really 16 divided by 2, which is 8. 8 minus 2, and then if I subtract those now, I get 6. Now some of you may have forgotten about dividing, so let's say you just know you're supposed to simplify it. So if I simplify it by 2, I get 8 over 1. And what is that? Okay, well, it's just like we did here when we made 16 into a fraction. 16 over 1 is the same thing as 16. 8 over 1 is the same thing as 8. So again, I would just replace it with 8 and then subtract the 2. All right, number 4, 12c plus 9 minus a. 12 times c, c is 1/2, plus 9, there's nothing to replace here, and then minus a, again, a is 2. All right, so this time I have multiplying, adding, and subtracting. I'm going to start with multiplication. So I'm going to make my whole number into an improper fraction, 12 over 1, and then multiply. 12 times 1 is 12, 1 times 2 is 2. And then I'm going to go back and simplify this, or remember, just divide it. 12 divided by 2 is 6. I'm going to bring down the plus 9 minus 2. And now I have adding and subtracting, which in PEMDAS are on the same level, so I do them in order. Since adding comes first, I see adding first. I'm going to start with that. So 6 plus 9 is 15, minus 2 is 13. All right, and then on number 5, 4b means 4 times b, or 4 times 5, minus, and then in parentheses, 20c would be 20 times 1/2, plus a is 2. All right, so this time I do have parentheses. I need to start inside my parentheses. And then within the parentheses, I'm going to do multiplying before I add, because multiplying always comes before adding. All right, so I'm going to make my 20 into 20 over 1 and then multiply. Top times the top, bottom times the bottom. So now I have 4 times 5 minus 20 top, 2 on bottom, plus 2. I go ahead and simplify this or divide it. 20 divided by 2 is 10, plus 2. And again, I'm going to finish up the parentheses before I move on to anything else. So 10 plus 2 is 12. And I have 4 times 5 minus 12. And now that I'm done with parentheses, I don't need them anymore. So I look and see what's left. I have multiplying and subtracting. Multiplying comes first. 4 times 5 is 20, and then 20 minus 12 would be 8. Okay? number 6, it says Lily purchased 8 paintbrushes for $4.59 each and 12 jars of paint for $3.85 each. Write an expression for the total cost of the art supplies. Then find the total cost. All right, so I'm trying to figure out the cost of just the paint brushes. Then if I'm buying 8 of them and they're each $4.59, that means I'm going to have to multiply 8 times $4.59 to get the paintbrushes. And then I have 12 jars of paint that cost $3.85 each. So for one, $3.85. I'm buying 12, so I need to multiply 12 times $3.85. So that'll tell me how much the paint costs. But if I want the total cost, I have to add these two things together. So here's my expression for finding the total cost, and then now I have to actually work it out in order to do it. So if I multiply $4.59 times 8, notice I put the $4.59 on top because it has more digits, and I like that, being on top better, so I'm going to do that. 8 times 9 is 72. Carry your 7. 8 times 5 is 40, plus 7 is 47. Carry your 4. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 4 is 36. Then I have 2 decimal places here, so I need to have 2 decimal places here. So I get 36.72, or $36.72. I'm going to do the same thing for 12 times 385. Again, I'm going to put the 385 on top because it has more digits. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry your 1. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Start my second row with a 0. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 3 is 3. Go ahead and add these up. 0 plus 0. 7 plus 5 is 12. 7 plus 8 is 15. Plus 1 is 16. Carry your 1. 3 plus 1 is 4. And I have 2 decimal places in my problem. So 2 in my answer. I'm going to move it over 2 places. So that's 46.20. All right, and then my last step is to go ahead and add these two together. So remember, when you are adding decimals, you need to line up the decimal and add zeros if necessary. In this case, they both have 2 decimal places, so I didn't need to add any zeros. 2 plus 0 is 2. 7 plus 2 is 9. 6 plus 6 is 12. Carry your 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. Plus 4 is 8. And then in addition, I just bring down the decimal. So my total cost is $82.92. All right. Number 7, Sophia has $32 to spend on her sister's birthday present. If she buys 3 DVDs at $D per DVD, she will have 32 minus 3D of her money left. How much does she have left if the DVDs cost $8.75 each? So in this problem, they've already given us the expression 32 minus 3D, and they want us to solve it with, it says $D per DVD. So the D stands for the cost of the DVD. Well, they tell us right here that the cost of the DVDs is $8.75. So what this means is I'm replacing D with the $8.75. All right, I can see the 32 came from here, and I can see the 3 came from here, 3 DVDs. They wrote it for us, we're just evaluating it. So 32 minus 3D, remember that right next to each other means multiply. So 3 times $8.75. Okay, I have subtracting and multiplying. Multiplying comes first, so I 8.75 times 3. 3 times 5 is 15, carry your 1. 3 times 7 is 21, plus 1 is 22. Carry your 2. 3 times 8 is 24, plus 2 is 26. I have 2 decimal places, so 2 decimal places here. So now I have 32 minus 26.25, and so I'm going to finish this up by subtracting. All right, so just like with addition, I need to line up my decimal with subtraction. Well, this one doesn't have a decimal place, so I need to give it a decimal place. So I'm not going to put it in front. That would be like making it 32 cents. If I put it in the middle, that's like 3.2 or $3.20. Decimal can only go at the end. So 32 is the same thing as $32. So I'm going to add 2 zeros. And then I can subtract 26.25. All right, just be careful when you're borrowing. I have to go all the way to the 2. That makes that a 1. that a 9, and this is a 10. So 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 2 is 7. This, again, I'm going to have to borrow. 11 minus 6 is 5, and then bring down my decimal place. We make it $5.75. But if she buys 3 DVDs that cost $8.75, this is the amount of money she has left. It's her change. Right? On the back, it says define a variable and write each phrase as an algebraic expression. So this first one says 1/3 the number of cards Louisa has. All right, so I'm not trying to solve anything. I'm just writing an algebraic expression. Is going to use variables or letters instead of only numbers. So it says to define the variable 1/3 the number of cards Louisa has. So I'm going to let C be the cards Louisa has. So that's defining the variable. I'm telling what the variable stands for. And then 1/3 of that, couple ways to think of that. 1/3 of is the same thing as multiplying 1/3 times C. So I could write it as 1/3 C. Or I could write it as 1/3 of something could also mean you're taking it and dividing it into 3 parts. So I could also write this as C over 3 or C divided by 3. Okay, so all of those are correct. You're most likely going to see it this way though. Okay, on number 9, you have 4 miles less than Katrina ran. Right, so 4 miles, that's not my variable, less than Katrina ran. So I don't know how far she ran. So I'm going to let that be my variables. So I'm going to let M, or you could use any letter. You could use it for K. So you could say, let's see, how do I want to say this? M is going to stand for what Katrina ran. All right, or the miles that Katrina ran. So I could say 4 miles less than. Now, less than is one of those tricky ones. So this is telling me that Katrina ran more than 4 miles. I'm going to start with whatever she ran and then subtract 4 from that. So M minus 4, or if you used a different letter, whatever your letter you chose, minus 4. Okay, it is not the same thing as subtracting from 4. Right, so remember less than is one of those that switches the order. Number 10. We have 1.25 times, so there's my keyword there, as many chapters read. So what I don't know is how many chapters were read. I can use C again to stand for chapters read. And then times, what does that mean? That's telling me to multiply. So 1.25 C, or again, lots of ways to write multiplication. Could write it with parentheses. You could write it with dot. Okay, but this is the most common way you're going to see it, especially as we get into algebra. They use, when there's a variable and a number, they will most likely just write it without some type of multiplication symbol. All right, 11, William had 6 bags of jelly beans. Each one weighed the same number of pounds P. Then he bought a box of jelly beans that weighed 10 pounds. Write an expression that represents the total weight of the jelly beans that William has. Okay, so 6 bags of jelly beans, each one weighed the same number of pounds. So we don't know how much a bag weighs, we just know it is P, the number of pounds. So if I want to know just how much the jelly beans weigh, then I would do 6 times P, or 6P, right? Then he bought a box of jelly beans that weighed 10 pounds. So he only bought 1 box of jelly beans that weighed 10 pounds, all right? I want to write an expression that represents the total weight. So that means I want to take the bags. Really what I was doing is I'm adding the bags plus the box to get the total weight. So first I had to figure out how much the bags cost. That was 6B. And then add the weight of the box, which is, in this case, since there's only 1, 10. I'm going to add 10. All right, and then I can't add these together. Remember, if I have a P here, and this one doesn't have a P, then these are unlike terms, so they can't be added together. So I just have to leave it as 6P plus 10. All right, on number 12, it says generate an equivalent expression using the distributive property. So that's when I have a number outside of the parentheses, but I have multiple things inside the parentheses. So Normally, I would try adding what's in the parentheses first, because that's order of operations, but I can't add these together. There's no W here. I know that something outside the parentheses means multiply, but I'm not just going to multiply it times the 2. The distributive property tells me I have to do it times everything inside the parentheses. So first I have to do 7 times 2W, but I also have to do 7 times 9. All right, so I distribute the 7 to both of the terms, or however many terms are inside. You could have more than 2. Then I want to go back and just go ahead and multiply it. So 7 times 2 is 14, keep the W, and then 7 times 9 is 63, and keep the addition sign. And this is all I can do, because again, these aren't like terms. This one doesn't have a W, so I have to just leave it. All right, same thing over here. I'm going to distribute the 11 to both of these. So 11 times 6C, I also have to do 11 times D. So here, 11 times 6, that's 66C. Here, when I just have a number times the letter, if you want, you could put a 1 there and think of it as 11 times 1, or you can just write it as 11D, because you know you can't multiply it times D if you don't know what it is, so you have to just leave it, 11D, and then keep the addition sign. This time they both have variables, but they're not the same variable, so they're still not like terms, so I can't add them, I just leave it, okay? All right, on 14 and 15, I'm going to be simplifying each expression. So again, I'm going to look to see if there's anything I can do to this expression. So I see this one has a y. I see this one has a y. That means I can combine these. I see this one has a 9z, so it's going to stand alone. It's not the same as these two. So I think we talked about in a video, you could think of each of the letters as a different animal. So I can add to, if we think a y, what would a y be? A yak. I guess I could have 5 yaks plus 2 more yaks. That would give me a total of what, 7 yaks or 7y. And then I have 9 zebras, if I think of Z being zebra. Okay, those are 2 completely different animals, so I'm going to leave it as a Z. So 7y plus 9z, and that's all I can do. All right, over here, 15, I have 12h plus 3j minus 4h minus j. All right, so the h's, I have 2 variables. I have h's and I have j's. All right, so I can combine the h's, the horses, and I can combine the j's, the jaguars, right? But I can't combine the horses with the jaguars. So this is sometimes tricky because a lot of people just assume they're going to add everything together. But if I just removed, if I got rid of this and reordered it, this would say 12h, and then you keep the sign in front of the number. So that the sign or the symbol, the operation that goes with the 4h is to subtract, minus 4h. So if I did 12h minus 4h, then that would be 8h, right? And here I have plus 3j, all right? Well, there's nothing in front of it to add it. So I'm just going to think of that as a positive 3j. And then what am I going to do with my 3j? Well, I have to look over here to see. Okay, so the symbol in front of the j is minus, so I'm going to subtract these two. I have a positive 3j since there was nothing out here to add it to. So 3j, I'm going to subtract minus j. Well, what does just a j mean? Well, again, we talked about this a little earlier, but when you have a variable without a number, you just assume it's a 1. So I have 3 jaguars. If I take away 1 jaguar, right, then I'm left with 2 jaguars. All right, so then I have to figure out, well, what do I put here? Well, is it positive or is it negative? So if you have 3 and you take away 1, you still have 2. So I'm going to use a plus sign to represent I have 2 jaguars. I have 8 horses, I have 2 jaguars. I take some away, I still have a positive number of horses, and I still have a positive number of jaguars. Okay, so I'm going to leave it like that. And then number 16 says 9 friends went out for pizza. The price of a slice of pizza was $P. Each of them bought 1 slice. 7 of the friends also bought a drink for $2. Write and simplify an expression that represents the total cost. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what they spent. It looks to me like they bought some pizza and they bought some drinks. So if I'm going to find the total cost, I'm going to have to add what they spent on pizza plus what they spent on drinks. So I'm going to break this down into the cost of pizza. So 9 friends went out for pizza. The price of the pizza is P. each of them bought one slice. So 9 people bought one slice that cost P dollars. All right, so then that would tell me I need to multiply 9 times the cost of a slice of pizza. I don't know what the slice of the pizza is. We're going to call it P. I'm going to write that as 9P. All right, so that's the cost of my pizza. Then I'm going to figure out the drinks. So 7 of their friends also bought a drink for $2. All right, this time 7 people bought a drink. I do know the cost of the drink. The drinks were each $2. So if I want to figure out what the drinks, or how much they spent on drinks, I would multiply 7 times 2. 7 people spent $2. Okay, so, and then I'm going to add these two together. So just to simplify it, 9P, there's nothing I can do there. 7 times 2, go ahead and multiply that. That gives me 14. And then I have to leave this as an expression because I still don't know the cost of a slice of pizza. So all I can say is that it's 9 times whatever that was plus the $14 they spent on drinks. And that would be my final answer. All right, so that's the end of the quiz review. Good luck on your quiz. Thanks.